What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. I also, like always, want to start off by saying all glory goes to God, because without Him, nothing would be possible. Okay, so today's video, I'm going to be discussing the importance of electrolytes. Now, the reason why I wanted to create this video was because every time I spar, and I'm specifically targeting this for sparring just because of the amount of physical activity and the amount of sweat I lose in sparring compared to some of the other stuff we do. But I have noticed, almost every single day, for the last 6 months, as of the date of this video, that I've been training Muay Thai, I have maybe watched, I can count on one hand, maybe like 3 or 4 times, I've watched people take electrolytes. And that's every day, 6 months of training. Okay, I've seen people 4 times drink electrolytes or add electrolytes in their water. So, and that's crazy to me. So today I want to talk about some of the effects that electrolytes have, and almost all of them are positive, to your fight game. So, as just real quick as a personal story, my last 2 sparring sessions, also at the end of this video, I'm going to include some of my sparring footage, so don't rip me up in the comments too much because, again, I've only been training for 6 months. And my form's a little off, but it's all good. Anyway, so electrolytes. Basically, I'm going to start off with the brain because the brain needs electrolytes too, right? That cerebral fluid, in the brain. We also sweat that out, right? So whenever we're doing these hard sparring sessions or just regular sparring sessions, whatever, or we're doing, lots of heavy bag work, heavy pad work, or putting the miles, right? We sweat. Whatever it is we're doing, when we're doing any sort of physical activity, we sweat. And we're also sweating out those minerals. And I feel like electrolytes is kind of like one of those things where people brush off. Because again, out of like almost all the people in my gym, even the fighters that we have, I'm one of the few people that I know put electrolytes in their drink, after a training session. And I've started implementing this for everything I do physically. Like whether it be weight training session, every day that I weight train, I put electrolytes in my water. Every day that I do Muay Thai, 'cause every day, I'm putting electrolytes in my water. Doesn't matter what the session is, always with electrolytes. And for me personally, like, I can tell, on days when, because I don't take pre-workout, on days when I've forgotten to put electrolytes, especially in the gym, I feel weaker, I feel more sluggish, you know what I'm saying? And this is coming from somebody who does dynamic warm-ups, who stretches, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm not just going to lift cold like most people I watch in the gym. They just walk in and start lifting. No, I do everything you're supposed to do. And on days where I don't get electrolytes, there is a noticeable difference in energy levels, a noticeable difference in my strength levels, and that I would also largely attribute a lot of my muscle hypertrophy, which is my muscle growth and strength, honestly, to electrolytes. Because, it has allowed me to sustain and go heavier because I have more energy, because my muscles are more hydrated, and my brain is more hydrated, so I could focus more and getting those last reps in. Or even with Muay Thai, I feel like I'm more focused, more energized, and I could hit harder, faster. I could focus more, and really focus on technique and form, speed, whatever I'm trying to focus on a training session in Muay Thai, because of the electrolytes, that I'm replenishing my body with, replenishing my muscles with. So there is it's like the night and day difference that I feel just solely from electrolytes is crazy. And again, the fact that I'm literally one of the only people in my Muay Thai gym that I see consume electrolytes, it's like, I think it's almost criminal. It's crazy. So moving on though, I want to go back to the brain, okay? And I literally just did a brief, super quick lookup, of what electrolytes do for your brain. It enables nerve communication to electrical impulses, supports cognitive functions like memory and focus, and to help maintain fluid balances within brain cells. Okay? And what does that mean? it means that your brain also needs to get refluid or you know, I just had a brain fart. Rehydrated. There we go. Just like your body, you know. And most people don't know this because I'm going to, switch us back onto hard sparring, especially when you're taking damage to your brain, in a second. But you know, people don't know this but your brain and the cerebral fluid in your brain is one of the last things in the body to get rehydrated, right? But most people don't know that. So when we're doing these hard training sessions, when we're putting in road work, when we're whatever, right? Whenever we're training, you know, the electrolytes play a huge role in making sure that your body recovers properly. And it's just, what more can be said, right? So I'm just putting this down to brain damage, like stuff like CTE, TBIs, brain damage, whatever, that a lot of people sustain in combat sports, especially if you're competing, because it's inevitable, or even if you're not competing and you're doing lots of hard sparring, right? Every time, we're sparring, competing, fighting, whatever, and we're taking hits to the head, and our brain is rattling around in our skull, you know what I'm saying? If you're not replenishing your body with electrolytes, you are so much more likely to get CTE, brain damage, because the cerebral fluid in your brain is not hydrated properly. The brain cells in your brain are not hydrated properly. And I would argue that, a lot of these fighters, from the golden age of fighting or whatever, these fighters that, haven't fought for like 10, 15, 20 years, and they're having these studies done on them, and they have, effects of CTE, they have brain damage, whatever. Or, I'm saying, or these fighters that are, that are dying because, of this, that, and the other. And they have all this accumulated brain damage, whether it be brain tissue, whatever, build up, or, whatever it is. I honestly would argue and largely attribute that to the lack of proper recovery that they had back in the day. And I still think this goes on well into today. You know what I'm saying? And so whenever you're, properly rehydrating your brain with electrolytes, I think, honestly, I truly do, that it would help in recovery so much more. So last thing I want to touch on is just muscles, and how it helps with muscle recovery because you're also rehydrating your muscles. Like I said earlier, we're doing strength training and stuff like that. I feel myself stronger. I can respond quicker. I can punch harder. I can lift weights for longer. It's just, what more can be said, right? Electrolytes are king. Please drink electrolytes. That's all for today. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.